I want to say to each of you, simply and directly, I am deeply sorry for my irresponsible and selfish behavior I engaged in. Some people have speculated that Elin somehow hurt or attacked me on Thanksgiving night. It angers me that people would fabricate a story like that. Elin never hit me that night or any other night. There has never been an episode of domestic violence in our marriage.
I think we can learn a lot from that situation. Not from Tiger, but from his wife. So she said, I've had enough. She said, no more. I think we should take a page out of her playbook and take a 9-iron and smash the window out of a big government in this country.
That would have been a weird enough statement coming from anyone, coming from someone as ostentatiously mild-mannered as Tim Pawlenty. That was positively... I do understand, though, that to fit in with the cool kids on the right these days, like Mr. Pawlenty is trying furiously to do, you've got to put a little violence in your rhetoric. All your best jokes, even, should mention the threat of force in some way. For example, tonight at a CPAC party, conservatives will have the opportunity to take a whack at a Nancy Pelosi-themed piñata or at a Harry Reid punching bag. There's a gender divide here, though. Only women will be allowed to hit Mrs. Pelosi. Only men will be allowed to hit Harry Reid. We reached out to the group putting on that party today to find out why the gender separation, whether they really would deny a conservative woman the opportunity to hit Harry Reid when they would make that opportunity available to a man. Not shockingly, they didn't call us back. It has been a palpable undercurrent in conservative politics this year, including now here at CPAC. Awkwardly even, the suicide attack on an IRS building in Texas yesterday became fodder for jokes at CPAC today. Here's how anti-tax activist Grover Norquist was introduced.
Let me just say I'm really happy to see Grover today. He was getting a little testy in the past couple of weeks, and I was just really, really glad that it was not him identified as flying that airplane into the IRS building.
I don't know. Maybe wait till the building's not smoking anymore? Maybe wait till after the funeral? An ill-timed or ill-considered joke isn't ever the end of the world. It's not humorous misfires that are the story here. The story here is the deep consistency of how much we're hearing and seeing about violence against the government on the right now. Here, for example, was how Democratic Senator Patty Murray of Washington was name-checked at a Tea Party event over the weekend.
How many of you watched the movie Lonesome Dove? What happened to Jake when he ran with the wrong crowd? What happened to Jake when he ran with the wrong crowd? He got hung. Well, that's what I want to do with Patty Murray.
You can sort of hear the shock in the audience in response to that, right? After initially denying that she had said that at all, the Tea Party organizer who made the remark later clarified that no one had any actual rope on hand to do the hanging of Senator Murray anyway. If this is reminding you of something, it may be that incident back in July when an anti-health reform group hanged an effigy of Democratic Congressman Frank Cradaville of Maryland. That immediately preceded a state of people bringing guns to anti-government protests over the summer. And what is defined as normal among conservative protesters is now being tried on for size by Republican candidates for office.
I believe personally we're at a crossroads. We have one last opportunity. And I believe 2010 is it. All right? And we can do it with our vote. And we can get new faces in. Whether it's my face or not, I pray to God that I see new faces. Because if we don't see new faces, I'm cleaning my guns and getting ready for the big show.
If I don't see new faces after the 2010 elections, I'm cleaning my guns and getting ready for the big show. What do you think the big show is in this case? That man, the speaker from that clip, the cleaning his guns for the big show guy, is a Republican candidate for Senate in the state of Indiana. we're a free country, and that means there are fringe folks doing fringe things and even making threats from the fringe all over all the time. That's not new, and that's not the point here. The point, on the occasion of the CPAC conference here in Washington, is the mainstreaming of this stuff, the wink and nod encouragement from national political figures, the dog whistles.
We don't see new faces. I'm cleaning my guns and getting ready for the big show. The vote is happening right now. I need your vote right now. Please stand with me. Thank you for standing.
The Republican Party would be really smart to start trying to absorb as much of the Tea Party movement as possible. Because this is the future of our country. The Tea Party movement is the future of politics.
Why did you bring a gun to a meeting with the President of the United States, given the violent history of this country with regard to presidents and assassinations? Why did you bring a gun to a public event with the President?
Clearly, I'm not advocating violence.
Would you discourage Americans, regardless of race, color, creed, or political identification, not to come armed to public meetings? Would you discourage them from doing that?
My answer is yes.
No, I would not. Yeah.
Okay, Congressman Cooper says he's a moderate. I guess by today's terminology, a moderate is someone who says, please don't come armed to public meetings. Mr. Gingrey, your opportunity. You can say what you want. Do you think people should come armed to public meetings to discuss health care or not?
I would think that they should exercise their rights under the Second Amendment.
If I weren't doing this job, I'd be out there with the Tea Party.
One of the co-sponsors of CPAC this year is the John Birch Society. The John Birch Society was considered so extreme and so conspiratorial and so embarrassing and dangerous in the 1960s that conservatives led by William F. Buckley essentially kicked them out of the conservative movement and demanded denunciation of the John Birch Society as the price of admission for any leader who wanted to be taken seriously in the conservative movement. Now that William F. Buckley is dead, the John Birch Society is back, actually sponsoring CPAC this year. Who in the conservative movement now will say what's gone too far? What's too dangerous? Joining us now is Chris Hayes, a.k.a. Lamb Chop, Washington editor for The Nation magazine. Chris, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Do you see anybody moving to draw the line, be the statesman, be the patriot on issues like this here?
I don't really. I mean, look, there are some lines that have been drawn, right? So one of the things that happened was this interview with Deborah Medina with Glenn Beck on 9/11 Truth, right? So
she's a sort of a Tea Party inflected candidate for in the Republican primary for governor in Texas.
Exactly, and she had an interview with Glenn Beck, and he said, "I've heard all this stuff about your maybe running with the 9/11 truthers, and what do you think happened 9/11?" She said, "Oh, I think there's a lot of questions open," and Beck kind of denounced her. And Red State after that has done this thing now where they're banning truthers and birthers from their comment section. Okay. But the problem really isn't the fringe views. It's like you said, it's the inflection of violence, and no one seems to be standing up against that. So there's two phenomena here. One is there's views that are really kooky, right? And you want to kind of patrol that just for the sake of the mainstream viability of the movement. But the more dangerous thing is really this kind of very loaded, violent rhetoric, and I don't see anyone standing up to that.
It's the reason that I was so shocked by Tim Pawlenty's comments today were not that they were the most shocking thing I've ever heard, but Tim Pawlenty has cultivated this reputation as the sort of friendly, mainstream, moderate, though conservative politician. That's sort of the that's the political capital he takes into his attempt at the presidency. And to have him get up there and say, you know, let's take a 9-iron and put it through the window of big government as his laugh line today. I mean, A, he's not very good at telling jokes. B, you're Tim Pawlenty. And it just gets redder and redder and redder from there. I wonder if that's sort of the price of admission right now in terms of seriousness with conservative activists.
They understand where the energy is. And one thing that primary candidates always do is chase the energy. And the energy is in the angriest part of the Republican base and the angriest part of the conservative movement. And the people who are most ticked off and are standing up at town hall meetings, those are the people that are going to come lick envelopes. Those are the people who are going to give you money, and those are the people who are going to show up in the caucuses in Iowa. Those are the people you're courting. So they understand very well who exactly they're playing to for their political future.
Michael Steele in particular has really aggressively tried to figure out some comfortable merger between the Tea Party and the Republican Party. Until this week, the RNC had a website that was teaparty.gop.com, where you could send Republican-branded tea bags to your favorite Democrats. When you do stuff like that, when you put up your Tea Party, Republican Party website and stuff, are you accountable for the, you know, I want to hang Patty Murray type rhetoric? Are you accountable for the more extreme rhetoric that happens at the Tea Parties?
That's a really good question. I mean, look, I guess I get really worried because I remember back during the Bush years when reporters and the right would go and find some Maoist in some crowd of 200,000 people that were protesting a war and say, you guys are Maoists, you know?
Yeah.
And so I don't know, actually, if you are responsible.
But there's a difference, though, because is the Republican Party, you know, I mean, was the Democratic Party ever saying, like, it's us in Code Pink?
Right.
Was the Democratic Party saying, you know, hey, it's us and Answer?
And you're right. To the degree that you appropriate them, to the degree that you invite them in, then yes, it is up to you to do the patrolling.
That's the degree to which you are held accountable.
That's right.
And that's the issue that the Republican Party is facing this week. With the Republican Party right now saying everybody's talking about it's this incredible mainstream, you know, everybody glomming onto this question of how close the Tea Partiers and the RNC are. And nobody's coming to the difficult question there, which is that they're then responsible for what happens to the people they ally themselves with.
That's right. And no one's also pointing out that the whole thing is a hustle. Tim Pawlenty's not going to shrink government. None of these people are going to do what the Tea Partiers want. I mean, the entire thing is a joke. They are manipulating and using them on the other end.